Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Donut Hole, your place where a couple of guys sit around and talk about things. My name's Paul.
And I'm Jason.
And we are coming at you from our studios here in Nashville. It is January 26th, year 2020, and we've been off for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And while we're off doing our thing, the world goes to hell in a handbasket.
Yep, it's because we're not sitting here figuring it out for them.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case.
That's what it is.
Belated Happy Chinese New Year to you guys. 春节快乐,新年快乐. 恭喜发财. However, that's probably not a place that they're having a very happy New Year at this point.
No.
Obviously, we are one day after Chinese New Year officially hits, and I believe on Chinese New Year itself, the city of, well actually a few days before, the city of Wuhan was quarantined due to the new coronavirus strain that is apparently wreaking havoc on the country. It started out with Wuhan finally getting quarantined. Then a couple other cities were quarantined, and I think we're up to 16 or 20 cities that have been quarantined now due to this. So that's all kinds of fun. I'll go ahead and let you jump in because I probably go for days.
Yeah, apparently it's, highly densely populated places like China. It's going to really affect a lot more.
Yeah, the city of Wuhan has 28 million people, I believe. Last I looked that up, which is about 2.5 to 3 times the population of New York City.
Yeah.
Just to put that out there.
Yeah. Small towns in we're in Nashville, that would be considered just a podunk village.
Yeah, it would be a small town. Honestly,
we got about 600,000 or so population, I believe, in metropolitan Nashville.
The small town I lived in when I lived in mainland China was actually about 800,000 people. Mm-hmm. And it was small, middle of nowhere. Most people didn't know where it was. And, like, if I were in the capital of that province, it was so podunk. And ironically, there was another town that had a very similar sounding name. I remember this very distinctively. I went to the bus station, set up where I wanted to go, and they held up 2 signs with the characters written on them. Which one you want to go to? And I'm like, oh, that one.
Yeah.
Because they're both so podunk and both in the middle of nowhere and oddly pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
So
densely populated place. Once something like that gets out of control, it's going to be so much worse for those, urban areas that are packed in like that. Mm-hmm. And it's not showing any signs of slowing. It's just getting worse and worse.
Yeah. So it kind of started out. The origins of the virus are a little up, or this particular strain of it that's jumped species apparently has been the kind of the issue. Initially, reports were out that it originated in reptiles. It came in from originally they thought snakes, but then I guess there wasn't quite enough evidence to support that. Now they're starting to lean towards bats. Mm-hmm. Might have come in that way. The thing is, with a lot of these food markets, like the fresh markets, which I admittedly did shop at when I lived in Taiwan and sometimes occasionally in China as well. They bring in such a vast array of different things, and the sanitation is not perfect. Like I probably would not get a cut of beef from one of these places and have it mid-rare.
Right.
That would probably, because that's generally how I like my steaks. If I would not order a steak or get a steak from a butcher here,
right,
so to speak. I have actually gotten seafood there occasionally, but I usually don't get my meat from there. I usually will go to the actual supermarket for that. Not that it matters because half the time it comes from the same place anyway. But that said, at the end of the day, what ends up happening, they're just usually open air stalls. You get a bucket of water, whoosh, down the blood goes down the drain. It all just kind of pools, and it gets a little dicey.
Right.
And obviously, this is how this has kind of come about. They're not pouring sanitation solution over it or anything. So,
well, and certain creatures just shouldn't be. That there are creatures that are just filthy, like bats. I mean, bats have a giant rabies problem. It's just one of those things. You just probably shouldn't eat certain creatures.
I don't know. Actually, I wouldn't mind trying bat, but probably not right now.
Yeah. But bats are notorious. I know just from, the outdoors things I do. Mm-hmm. Like if you get bit by a bat, seek immediate medical attention. Yeah. Don't go in bat caves. I know a lot of people do, but it's just they're just filthy creatures. And if it is true that it came from a bat, it does not surprise me at all.
If you're going to have bat, make sure you cook it extra crispy.
Yeah.
Deep fry that motherfucker, because then it'd
Yeah.
probably be pretty good. So anyway, that's kind of the origins of it. Rumor mill is also circulating that potentially it's not just this new corona strain that's wreaking havoc, that there's also some other disease potentially at play that's actually causing such, the mass die-off. Currently, right now, per the official numbers and everything, which you got to take with a grain of salt because the numbers are coming out of China for the most part. But the official numbers are kind of leading to the death toll of about 3% of the infected population are dying from this, which doesn't sound like a lot, but to put that in perspective, people that die from the flu, it's 0.03%, because I looked this up earlier, I did the math. 0.03% of people die that get the flu every year. So to bring that up to 3%, that's saying
And to put that in perspective, on the high end, the Spanish flu, that was the last large worldwide flu epidemic that killed, I believe it was 20 million people worldwide, was a 5% rate. So if that those two things put it in perspective, that, one of the worst pandemics we've seen in modern era was the Spanish flu, and it was at 5%.
And to bring things in now that some of these cities like Wuhan have been quarantined. Basically at this point, doctors are not even testing them. So they're not getting officially recorded as having it. They're just saying, here's medications, go home, stay by yourself.
Yeah.
There's a video that we're going to post, probably just interject it into the video, probably right here. Okay, now that you guys have seen the video, you kind of see what we're talking about. Apparently, it seems that this brave guy here has gone in and kind of spilled the beans, so to speak. Apparently, in Wuhan, you can't, obviously all the mass transit's down. Gas stations, you can't get gasoline to drive yourself to the hospital. It was up until very recently. Right about the time they quarantined the city off, they're like, hey, the government's like, hey, maybe you should wear a face mask, as opposed to, hey, maybe you should go to all these giant banquets that are being held all over the place for Chinese New Year, where everyone's eating communally. But no, there was no, warning of the public on how to, be safe during it. I understand the need to not create a panic, but you can simply say, here's a disease. We think it could be problematic. Here's some steps to mitigate it. We're here to help, be that proactive. But the Chinese government didn't do that. They dropped the ball. Now people finally do make it into to get to the doctor. Maybe they're sick, maybe they're not. They're going to be waiting there for 10 hours. Well, they're probably going to be sick by the end of it.
Well, yeah, that was a good point that he made, is that you're de-incentivized to seek any help because you don't even want to leave your apartment, much less stand in a line at a hospital.
In a packed hospital, yeah. Where now the doctors are not even really testing you because they either ran out of testing supplies or government minders have told them to knock it off. Or whatever the reason, or they're just overwhelmed and can't get to it all. That they're just handing out the medication, telling you to go home and stay in isolation. This is a problem. This is a massive problem. And kudos to that guy for sharing that video with us here in the Western media. I'm not sure if it's been shared a lot on Chinese social media or not. I know I'm personally going to try to do my part. When I get home, I'm going to finish shrinking that video size down to 25 megs so it can be shared on WeChat and QQ. So we can go around the Chinese sphere. I'm also going to blur the guy's face out because, he's already kind of signed his own death warrant with it being released here. I'm sure the Chinese can see what he looks like.
And a paper mask is not enough.
No.
People can recognize people from here up. That's definitely.
Which is why I'm going to
especially with computer facial recognition software.
Which is why I'm going to run his face through a pixelator as much as I can to try to mitigate it and then share him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. I've shared him here in the West, but
not like they haven't already seen this, but you don't want to be a part of any of that.
Yeah, so, I would like to share to get the message out. I don't want to share to help this guy's demise because he's got bigger balls than most of you boog boys out there that are talking about the boogaloo. Virginia happened. We haven't seen anything happen with that. We'll get to that later. Moving forward with this, and of course, obviously, the pandemic is spreading out of China. They've already quarantined like 16 or plus cities in China. We're seeing cases, obviously, confirmed cases in Taiwan, confirmed cases in Japan, confirmed cases in South Korea.
France now.
The United States, we have one, at least one confirmed case that I know of for sure in Washington. I know for sure of one in California. I've heard
of one in Florida.
Chicago. Rumor mill has it we have one less than 2 hours from here
Yeah.
in Cookeville at UT.
Yeah.
So the University Medical Center there, apparently they've got somebody in isolation. That one's not confirmed yet, but
Right.
that's obviously, I think there was one in Atlanta too.
Yeah.
Big, huge travel
So,
hub,
you
it
know,
makes
yeah,
sense.
we're hearing a lot about it now, and unfortunately, like we were talking about earlier, it being a virus, there's not going to be a cure to it ever. There can only be a vaccine.
There can be a vaccine.
We still have not scientifically achieved a way of curing viruses yet. Once you're infected with a virus, the body's natural defenses have to take over. You know, there are support medications. You know, people say the Tamiflu works sometimes it doesn't. But there is no drug that you can take to eradicate a virus.
No.
Your body basically has to do it, which is the support medications and the support things.
Yeah, which is, since this is a respiratory virus. Oddly enough, the SARS virus in 2003 was also a form of coronavirus.
Yes.
Many people don't know that.
Some forms of the common cold are a coronavirus. So it's actually a fairly common form of virus.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently, it can be, since it's primarily a respiratory thing, they're obviously like oral steroids, or, for breathing, they're giving you that. They're giving you various fever medications to knock the fever down. That said, not everybody who is carrying the virus is symptomatic. There's at least generally speaking, about a 1 to 2 week incubation period for it, that you're carrying it around. Hey, look at me, I got coronavirus, and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
So that's problematic.
Well, and there's all levels of symptoms as well. You know, there's especially you take these skeptical type people that say, "Well, I just got a cold. You know, I don't have a high fever. I don't have labored breathing." Still may have it. That may be what's causing your cold-like symptoms. So this thing can range anywhere from not harming you at all the way up to death.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary too, is because it's such a range of symptoms. It's not like you can say, okay, if you have a high fever and struggle breathing, you have it. Well, no, if you just have the sniffles, you may have it, or you may have no symptoms at all. So that's very frightening.
Another little frightening thing that I kind of just thought of fairly recently is obviously it's affecting China. It's already spread to South Korea, Japan, and so on. Wonder how it's doing in North Korea.
Right. Yeah.
Because here you've got a regime that spends 90% of their GDP on the military. Probably not that much on healthcare. And yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things that could decimate 5% of their population.
Or more.
Like Spanish flu type numbers, and you'd never know.
It could be even
they're
higher.
Never tell anybody.
It could be even higher.
They're just going to stack the bodies and burn them. That's all they're going to do. China's bad enough with the, I heard an analogy the other day when they were talking about this coronavirus that seemed very apt, that China is the one to sweep everything under the rug, while the U.S. media is the boy who cried wolf about everything. But at least the Chinese are going to admit there's a problem and whatnot, whereas a regime like North Korea just will say, oh, no problems, and just watch the bodies stack up.
Yeah. Speaking of which, back to the guy that we posted the video of, he definitely, one silver lining in this is it seems that the younger generation of Chinese, at least according to his video, are starting to wake up and they're realizing that this, their government sucks. So between what's going on in Hong Kong, which I've actually not seen much in the way of protesting, can't blame them because Hong Kong also has a few cases of it, obviously. Especially with the Chinese New Year, people going from place to place. It's going to spread around like wildfire right now. But between that, the civil unrest there, and now soon to be the civil unrest in places like Wuhan and the various other quarantine cities, and it's only going to get worse. Maybe they'll finally...
and the guy's right, things. And people can say whatever they want to about the U.S. healthcare system, but if the U.S. had a pandemic on this level, we would be utilizing the Army, FEMA. We'd be setting up hospital tents just all over different cities and different neighborhoods. We'd have trucks going door to door distributing medication.
Yeah,
China's not doing any of these things.
No.
Even if it was such a hot zone where you couldn't think your soldiers would be safe distributing medication, you can airdrop them into, city parks, have the people who already live there who are already at risk distributing such things. There's a lot they could do that they're not doing.
Yeah, I mean, they could basically just pump pump out and like basically close off the radio and TV airwaves, commandeer it, like because they can do that during an emergency. It's the emergency.
Sure,
management.
any country can. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just commandeer that and just basically put out instructional videos. This is how you do it. So you just an untrained layperson can start to basically become a medic instantly because they're giving the step-by-step tutorial on the TV and on the radio basically on loop. And it's like, oh, these are the new drop times. These are the new drop schedules where we're dropping all the medications. If you're already here, we're asking you to help your fellow man and go around and do this stuff, and then you do it because that's what you do because you're already quarantined in. It's like, well, might as well try to help people as much as you can,
Right.
There's definitely ways you can make it.
And even if that only reaches, 20, 30% of the people, hey, that's 20, 30% you weren't reaching before.
Yep.
So, those type of efforts could be made, and it just seems like the only thing they're doing is sending airplanes to spray disinfectant, which in all honesty, what's that really going to do? The source of the active viruses are within people, sure, you disinfected the outside of the building, but then when the next guy sneezes, it's infected again.
Yeah, so you're just going to have to run those 24/7, and that's really not helping that much. You're
No,
getting maybe a 5 to 10% return on it, maybe?
If that. And not only that, it itself is a hazard to the health of the people. When you're raining down disinfectant on a city, that can't be good for their health either.
Probably not.
So yeah, they've got a lot of issues they could be working on, and they're trying to rely on the existing hospital systems, and that wouldn't work in any country. I understand. I can't say I would criticize the hospital systems because you take anywhere, their hospitals will be overwhelmed. But that's where the government steps in with the the FEMA type
with the emergency management,
the the military doing those type of things.
Yeah, and there's lots of videos of like doctors and nurses dealing with it. I saw a video with a doctor basically yelling at seemingly a supervisor or something over the phone. It might have been a party official. I'm not quite sure, and there wasn't subtitles on this one, so I only could catch so much of it because he was pretty frantic and his yelling. He was speaking pretty quick, but basically he was really upset because. He wasn't getting the support needed to be able to deal with this, and that basically the hospital was overwhelmed and overrun. And yeah, it was pretty bad. I've seen videos of people just dropping dead in the street, just nuts, just craziness. So this is not good.
No, it's it's up there with the SARS epidemic, except that I believe that the death rate's higher.
I believe it is a little bit too.
Now the SARS was just as widespread, but it was, I think, a little bit lower on the death toll. So we'll see how it gets handled. Hopefully somebody will be able to come up with a vaccine, at least it's going to mutate as it goes.
Yeah, I was going to say,
just like the flu does. But at least, once again, even if the vaccine were only effective in 20% of the people, 30% of the people, you're dropping that death rate down to 1%, that would be something. And we don't even know if it's something they can make a vaccine for, or if it would be effective. I'm sure there's people working on it right now, especially in Western countries. But hopefully that comes about, and we'll see. But we never did see a vaccine for SARS. We never did see a vaccine for MERS, the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. So hopefully, usually as happens with a lot of these viruses like Ebola and the more virulent strains, they burn themselves out. They can't be passed along so quick to just wipe out everybody because eventually they just burn themselves out once quarantines are in place. So hopefully that's what we'll see.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Let's go down the rumor mill and the conspiracy mill a little bit, though, with it. Obviously, SARS was a coronavirus. Like you said, common cold was a coronavirus. Oddly enough, there's a couple of patents in the United States on a few different strains of the coronavirus. And 2 years ago, I believe one of the groups that was working with the Bill and Melinda Gates, which were apparently working on vaccines potentially and stuff for this virus, they war-gamed out a scenario back in 2018. Basically this scenario that's unfolding now. Now, how much stock you want to take into it? Was this a manufactured virus? Was it not? I don't know. But I'm just throwing that out there because it's out there.
Yeah, and governments have been, like you said, gaming these scenarios for a long time because as we become an increasingly globalized culture, this stuff can get out of hand a lot quicker than it can be contained. In the 1980s, people didn't travel that much from the Western world to the Eastern world. There were barriers. They did some, but it wasn't like it is now. And now that the barriers are down and people are just freely traveling around the world, these things are going to get out of hand a lot quicker. And it's going to be a lot harder to, not just this scenario, but in the future, handle these type of things. Which, goes back to the point of the Chinese government didn't act quickly enough.
Yeah, speaking of which, it wasn't until right as they were quarantining the city that they're telling people, hey, wearing a face mask might be a good idea. Like, this thing's going on. People are still dropping in the street. It's all kind of rumor mill stuff. Most people are just walking around like, do. Like, the government didn't even come out and say, hey, take care of yourself a little bit. Hey, these are some precautions you can take. Nope. It was like, we're quarantining the city. Oh, by the way, you guys might want to wear a face mask because shit's hitting the fan. It's like...
Yeah, and, even just a paper face mask can, prevent a lot of transmission,
Yeah.
Hand washing, hand sanitizer, paper face mask. Like the guy in the video that you guys just watched said, it can go through the mucous membranes of the eyes. So safety goggles. Physical barriers do work. Now, of course, viruses are so small that the physical barrier is not going to work all the time. But hey, once again, if it helps by 10, 20%, you put all these things together, eventually you create a defense.
Exactly. Oddly enough, actually, I was talking to somebody that I know that lives in China. And apparently she does not live in Wuhan. She lives over in Fujian province. But apparently somebody in her building was taken out.
Yeah.
So that, kind of shows you how quickly it's spread and how bad it's getting.
Yeah, and especially if you're sick, you definitely need to wear a face mask.
Yeah.
Because that prevents it from, it collects in the face mask and not in, into other people's space. So, there are defenses for these things, and we can't get past it, but you got to act quick, and the government needed to be out there telling people this, and they didn't. Especially during a time, like you said, of
Chinese New Year, everyone's
where people are
communal
coming together.
Dinners,
they're all out in the streets. The transmission rate just had to be exacerbated by that.
It did, for sure.
Big time.
For sure. Well, on that depressing note, let's take a break, and we'll get back to you guys here after the commercial break. Actually, before we do that, I actually want to go into this one other thing real quick. So, take that back. So, non-commercial break before we do this. Apparently, going back to the spread and transmission, because I wanted to kind of wrap all the Taiwan stuff together. So, apparently, somebody that was in Wuhan went back to Taiwan, and this is apparently what happened. I'm going to go ahead and read this thing verbatim. I'll try to link to this news story for you guys. So, a guy got sick in China, went to see a doctor in China because he had a fever, got fever medication, came back to Taiwan in the middle of this global pandemic thing with its epicenter in Wuhan that he just came from Wuhan. He didn't tell anybody he'd came from Wuhan or that he had a fever. He took the MRT system or the subway home and then a taxi without a face mask. Went to a doctor in Taiwan, didn't tell the doctor that he'd just come from Wuhan and he had a fever. Then he goes to a whorehouse, still not wearing a mask. Went to a third doctor who suspected he was sick with the coronavirus and reported him to the authorities. Finally put in quarantine, but still said, I haven't had any contact with anybody in Taiwan. And it was only when one of the ladies from the dance club got sick herself and suspected he was the culprit did he finally confess to it. So, yeah, fun times. Apparently, the guy was in contact with over 80 people. Over 80. And thankfully, he's been fined approximately $10,000, but I don't think that's enough, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, yeah, but there's no fine that's going to fix anything, but...
Personally, I think they need to slap his ass into quarantine, no medications, see how the disease progresses, use him as a fucking guinea pig for science, and if anybody dies from it, he gets executed if he survives. That's how I feel.
And that's a lot of the problem with these type of diseases, too, is so many things can be solved by people doing the right things, listening to the recommendations of places like the CDC, and observing that. But you always have in every disaster, just like these jackasses who say, I'm going to just stay here with this hurricane. Nothing bad's ever happened in the past. And then they're on TV bitching about how their house fell down.
It depends on the hurricane and what's going on with it, too, though. Because, I used to live in
Florida.
Yeah. But if it's not a category 4 or 5, you don't even pay attention to it.
But, it's the same thing. It's like, if you're not going to follow, the guidelines are here to help people. The guy should absolutely be in prison once he recovers.
Damn right.
Executed, I don't know, but definitely imprisoned.
Yeah.
And perhaps even charged with negligent manslaughter.
Negligent homicide.
Which in something like in America, that'd be like 10 years in prison.
Yeah.
But yeah, you always have these people during every natural disaster that just have this sense of invincibility, think they're above it. And look, guys, nobody's above this, you got to do the right thing because it's not only you, it's everybody else.
Yeah. Well, back to the hurricane thing a little bit.
Well, the hurricane thing, it is only you.
Yeah.
You know.
It is only you. And if you have moderate preparations, if you got a generator and you've got, some food at home and some water, and it's less than a Category 3 storm or 3 or lower, then yeah, just ignore it. It's fine. Just go to the store, pick up some extra bottle of water, maybe a couple extra bottles of booze, a couple of flashlights and candles, and some cards so you can hang out with your buddies, because that's really all it is. It's the power's going to be out for a couple of days. Not a big deal. Now, if it's a Category 4 or 5 storm and it's looking legit, if you're especially in the coastal regions, then you might want to, a little bit. But that's just my experience with hurricanes. I've been through a lot of them.
Yeah. My analogy was basically don't put yourself in harm's way when you know something's coming and then complain about it.
Yeah. Just sit there without power for a couple of days, play cards. You'd be fine.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, if it's a legit storm, 4 or 5, then okay, maybe. But a Category 3 hurricane's like a bad thunderstorm here.
I'll make the analogy like the people in Tennessee, and I used to be this way too, because here lately we have not had a lot of tornadoes, knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
Because we have at one point been, one of the higher ones in the nation in this region. The people that hear the warning sirens and everything, and they don't go in the basement, even though they have a basement, they just stay hanging out in their living room. Not bright.
No, that's their fault for being retarded.
Yeah. Just go down to the basement. All you got to do is walk down to the basement. Like you said, carry you a beer and some cards down there.
Yep. Pretty much.
That's all you got to do. But the same thing goes for this coronavirus. Do the small things. Do the masks. Do the hand washing. Do the hand sanitizer. Do the goggles when you go out. Those kind of things save lives.
Yeah. All right. So now at this point, I think we're going to take a break. We'll get back to you guys after the commercials. Alrighty, guys, we're back from the break. It seems the video footage cut out halfway through. I'm getting sick and tired of using this recording device, so we're going to have to figure something else out for that, but that's something for another time. Show must go on. So let's get back into it. Let's go back into more domestic things. So obviously, Trump's still being impeached in the Senate.
Yeah.
Or the hearings going on, rather.
Yeah, the trial's going on. Apparently, it's kind of a funny irony that the Republicans were wanting witnesses in the House, and basically the Democrats were denying them some of the witnesses they wanted, and now the Democrats have gone to the Senate trial and they basically want more discovery, which if anybody knows anything about and they want certain witnesses, the discovery portion and the investigation portion was supposed to be done in the House, and they're screaming about extra evidence that they want submitted. Well, that's not the way it works. It's just like in court. If this were a criminal trial, the judge would say to the prosecutor, well, you had your discovery phase. This is where you present your evidence and your current witnesses, not new witnesses that you already deposed and you already had discovery on. And that's what we're going to make our decision based off. If you felt you needed more time to investigate, we should not have had the trial. You should have continued to investigate.
Yeah, it sucks to be you. We're moving forward.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the Democrats are bitching about. But hey, they control the House. They don't control the Senate, so it was kind of on them. They could have continued to investigate this, but they wanted to move quickly when it was in their court. And ironically enough, the Republicans want to move quickly when it's in their court, and then the other...
Well, they wanted to move quickly up until the point where they actually had the articles, and then they're like, "Oh, we're not going to deliver them." It's just a goddamn dog and pony show,
right? And all that delay between the delivering and all that, they could have been doing more investigation. It's perfectly within their power to do so.
Yeah.
You have Adam Schiff, the head of the Intelligence Committee, talking about how basically the Senate needs to, get more evidence. Well, that's not their job. The senators are jurors in this.
Yeah.
That is their role. The jurors do not produce witnesses. The jurors do not. They listen to the evidence that the prosecutor had already gathered.
Yeah.
So it's just a partisan dog and pony show. Unfortunately, it's, I believe, going to be the new norm in American politics.
Yeah, from here on out, every president's going to be impeached, and it's just going to be a shit show.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, congratulations, you just ruined the one thing that actually, is supposed to be there for emergencies only, basically. Yeah, you've ruined that and just turned it into an everyday occurrence now. Every president from here on out is going to get impeached. Frankly, at this point, I'm thinking might be seeing the last of presidents in the United States. This place is just turning into such a fucking shit show.
Well, and all this also comes from the fact that the Senate and the House has basically ceded their powers to the presidents. And then that's where these presidents are held to such this insane standard, because we're getting back into this like they're the ruler of the country. Well, that didn't used to be the case.
No.
It was the Congress who did such things.
Yeah.
So that's also part of their problem is because they don't have term limits, they refuse to act on things because they don't want to alienate any potential voters, and then the president is forced to act because nothing is going to get done otherwise.
Yeah.
Except silly bipartisan bills like condemning white supremacy and whatnot, or non-binding agreements. Well, of course, everybody can agree on those things.
Yeah,
but
does
does that really change policy in
No.
America? No. And I think this is the new norm. And in all honesty, like I told everybody, this whole Trump fiasco is basically, it started with Clinton. Clinton had the bad behavior, the way he was treating the women. He lied under oath. Should he have been impeached? He was. I don't know. That's a different discussion. However, all these norms that the Democrats are talking about that Trump violates, which he absolutely does, this started with Bill Clinton. This is not a new thing. Everybody acts like the world started turning with Trump here, but this political slide down has been happening for a long time.
Clinton did it. Bush did it. Obama did it. Trump's doing it.
It's like the article I saw. The Office of Accountability said that Trump broke the law by withholding the aid for as long as he did to Ukraine. Sure, fine. Well, if you actually look back in their reports, the Office of Accountability, Barack Obama broke the law several times doing certain things. George Bush broke the law a certain amount of times doing certain things. Basically, everybody after Reagan broke the law according to the Office of Governmental Accountability.
And possibly even further back than that.
Right. So this is nothing new. This is a slide we've been in a long time, and I think for us to center all this on Trump and the Trump movement is just foolishness. This has been a decay within government of both parties for a very long time.
Yeah. Pretty much. And which is why I've not really been giving hardly any of my time to this stupid Trump impeachment garbage. It's just Doug Pony show.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and all this basically it degenerated further, and this was because the Democrats have been playing dirty for years, and the Republicans didn't, because I will be honest, the Republicans did not give two shits if they were a minority party.
Yeah.
They were there to help big businesses, to help profits, and that's what they were.
Yeah.
Now, Trump has changed a little bit of that. He's become a more populist message, but Republicans really didn't care if they were the minority
And
party.
now they're starting to play dirty a little bit.
And
they're
now they started to play dirty and started to gain a little more power. And then the whole thing's just degenerated.
And now the left's freaking out because, you're playing dirty just like us. Holy crap.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I got the coronavirus.
Yeah. So, it's just degenerated. And, if people on the liberal side think that this is not going to happen to the next president that's a Democrat, it absolutely will.
Yeah.
Because the Republicans will gain control of the House or the Senate, and they will just tear that president a new one.
Yeah.
And it's not good for any of us because just absolutely nothing's going to get done.
Yep, pretty much. So I guess let's shift gears to things I've actually been, giving a crap about, because nobody gives a crap about the Trump garbage. So Governor Blackface in Virginia has decided to, with obviously the aid of Bloomberg and the fact that everybody in Virginia decided to sit on their ass this last election, and elected a bunch of Democrats for no reason, they've obviously decided to move forward a bunch of gun grabbing measures, everything from red flag laws to you can only buy one gun a month, to proposed assault weapons bans, magazine capacity limits, doing all kinds of fun stuff that has escalated so much so that West Virginia has re-extended, or basically reminded the rest of Virginia that, hey, we're here, you can still join us. And so that started the whole Vexit movement.
Yeah.
People exiting Virginia to West Virginia. I think a couple of counties are already strongly considering it and kind of moving forward with that, which is good on them. Over 90% of the counties there have basically passed local level resolutions basically saying, we're not doing any of this new gun shit. To which Governor Northrop says, yes, you will. And some sheriffs are like, we'll deputize the whole town and, to make them exempt. Tazewell County has organized a government-sanctioned or a community government-sanctioned militia there. It's just turning into a giant shit show. They had a big, giant rally on the 20th, which people were thinking, myself included, was thinking that, okay, maybe this will be the start of the Boogaloo. But turns out it wasn't. You had over 30,000 people, most of which were armed, hanging out in one place. And guess what? Nobody got shot.
Nobody even got arrested.
Nope, somebody did.
Oh,
there was
somebody did.
one arrest.
Okay.
There was one arrest of a woman who was wearing some sort of face mask thing. She was arrested.
Okay.
One woman was
because initial
arrested.
reports said there was no arrests. And what we're seeing here is this development of, and we're seeing it social media, we're seeing it nationwide, is we're starting to see the tyranny of the majority.
Yeah.
Because yes, in Virginia, the majority of the people voted for these Democrats, but if you look at the areas these people lived in, their realities are far different from these 90% of the counties. They have these people stuck in urban centers that are voting for policies that may or may not benefit urban centers. I don't agree with their policies, but then you extend that out to a county that did not vote that way.
Yeah.
That's the tyranny of the majority, and that's why we had this place set up as a republic rather than a direct democracy. But we're seeing that, they're learning how to short circuit that republic.
Yeah.
With the money from Bloomberg, and then you move people into this area, that area, and you pack these areas.
Yeah, of course, yeah. With Virginia, you got what, Fairfax, Virginia, and Richmond. They're pretty much controlling the whole state at this point.
Yeah, and there's a couple other mid-sized cities that voted that way as well.
Yeah.
But once again, it's always urban. It's never, and those people that live in those urban areas may think those policies are right for them, but how can that policy be right for the guy that owns a farm, 3 counties away, 300 miles away?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
Well, moving forward, the media was trying to paint this whole rally as a white supremacist thing, which it clearly was not. Because if you look at any of the footage, there's a ton of black people, a ton of Hispanics, a ton of Asians there as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Saying, yeah, we like guns too, so fuck off.
Oh, yeah, there's actually a video going around of a black guy saying, like, well, I don't look like a white supremacist to you, do I? Because, he obviously felt like his voice was being silenced because, he was being marginalized.
Look, sorry about the video feed cutting out. We just cut it back on. Like I said, this particular thing that we're using to record the video is going to get replaced before the next episode, but show must go on. So anyway, clearly was not a white supremacist rally. And actually, the mother of the woman that was killed in, what was it with the car? That was in Charlottesville, yeah. She actually came out more on the side of the pro-gun people for this, saying, yeah, like, she's even like, some of these new gun laws are a little over the top, guys. So that just shows you how far this is getting pushed. There's a bunch of other cities, and ironically, it's happening in a lot of places that would normally be red states, which is really the bizarre thing. Like, Mississippi's pushing some new gun control stuff. Missouri is as well. Hell, even here in Tennessee, we've got 2 dipshits in our legislative sessions here. I'm going to call these asshats out. So we've got Steve Dickerson, Republican, oddly enough, proposing Senate Bill 1178. We're going to make sure you get fucking voted out, you fucking cocksucker. And then Bill 1125, Jeff Yarborough, Democrat, also same thing, pushing forward more gun legislation, red flag type laws here for Tennessee. Thankfully, our governor is not a complete moron, and he's come out and said, yeah, I'm not cool with this. So
yeah, he said he wasn't quite ready to sign something like this.
So
and
Bill,
he didn't really see the need to.
Yeah, Bill, kudos to you for not being a moron.
And now the article I read, of course, the media tries to spin it. Most media is in favor of this type of stuff.
Yeah.
But, they were trying to spin it in such a way like this is a more moderate red flag law. Like it's only people who live with that person or family. And I'm thinking, okay, so family, you haven't spoken to your father, say, in 20 years.
Yeah.
So your father can say you should have your guns taken away?
You get into an argument. You say your dad's a Democrat, you're a Republican. I think both parties suck, but let's just say that's the case. And you post something on Facebook, and he's like, fuck you, I'm going to show you. And, yeah, right? I don't think so.
Yeah, say you're estranged, you've got other arguments going on, you have a lot of animosity between you. all of a sudden, he's going to file some order.
I'm going to show that little brat.
And,
yeah. Okay, there you go.
And, they also said in the Tennessee proposed law that there was a clause that said, if people lied to, enact one of these measures on someone, that they would be punished and arrested. And
that's great.
But you have to prove that they lied.
Yeah, I have to prove that they lied.
Puts the burden of proof on the victim.
Exactly. And that's not okay. Because the biggest problem with the red flag laws is the fact that you do not get your proper due process of law, which is another constitutionally enshrined right that is, well, granted, the Constitution doesn't give you that right. That's a freaking God-given right. That's an inalienable right that the government's trying to squash at this point, and I'm not cool with that.
Yeah. Because honestly, I would have no problem, and I'm sure you wouldn't either, that if a guy got on Facebook in front of God and everyone and said, I am going to kill these type of people.
Yeah.
I am going to attack a synagogue. I am going to I hate black people. I'm going to attack a black church. Well, obviously, we need to follow up with that. Obviously,
that needs to be followed up on.
We do need to address that. But that's an overt threat. Just saying somebody, oh, well, maybe they might be a little dangerous. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the part that scares me. Because I would not mind a red flag law for such an occasion where you have concrete proof that this person threatened the life of people. Mm-hmm. Fine.
But we already have those laws are already on the books. If you say I'm going to kill you to somebody, I'm going to fucking kill you. Cops can already come and arrest you for that.
There's already laws called terroristic threats. That's considered a terroristic threat. And then they don't take your guns; they take you.
Yeah, exactly. So, the guns aside,
they don't separate your guns from the home; they separate you from your home.
Exactly. So, and which is frankly a better option.
It is a better option.
Because if these people are allegedly so dangerous, well, then maybe they should be separated from their home.
Yeah, maybe they should be put in jail. Right.
Although we're getting to a point now where although not advocating for this, we're getting to that point where it might be time to start separating politicians from their homes in some ways. I'm, again, not calling for any violence at this point, but we're getting to that. We're getting closer and closer with the tyrannical nature of things.
Well, it's just an accountability.
Yeah.
The media is all on board with this accountability of Trump, but to me, you don't start with Trump. Trump's, yes, he lies every time the cameras are on, but what president hasn't? They just make it sound better.
Yeah.
You start with the big stuff first, you got Joe Biden on camera talking about how he withheld aid to get a prosecutor fired that was investigating the company that his son worked for at the time.
Yeah, he admitted it on camera in front of the world. There it is on tape, or digital recording rather, but same difference. There it is, black and white proof. Hey, guess what? I strong-armed that bastard to make sure my son was okay. That's fine, but I may or may not have withheld aid, but I didn't tell them that. Just to ask, hey, how's your investigation going? Because I've heard about this stuff that's going on. One's okay and one's not.
Right. And if we're going to have accountability, we have to enforce it across the board. Mm-hmm. And, and I've told people, I was like, well, if this were a perfect world where people acted with integrity, Trump maybe should be impeached.
Yeah, sure. But Biden should also be in jail.
And so should Obama for drone striking American citizens.
Yep, and probably Bush, too, for passing the Patriot Act, which, violates everybody's civil liberties.
So this is the point, to me, it's like Trump is small potatoes here.
Yeah.
When you got these senators who have lifelong, ambitions in their career, and they do insider trading, and they funnel contracts to their husbands or their wives' companies. And, I'm actually about to give Bernie Sanders credit. Mm-hmm. Bernie Sanders is only worth a couple $1 million. He's been a politician for 40 years. And Bernie Sanders was an outsider politician. He wasn't in on this insider trading and all that.
Yeah.
He just recently became a part of the Democrat Party. Actually, nobody liked him because he's an old Marxist. I don't like his ideas. But that's why he's only worth a couple $1 million. He's wrote a couple of books. He's not a rich man.
He's probably invested some of his money.
And also, senators make pretty good money.
Yeah.
Make a couple $100,000 a year.
Couple $100,000 a year. He's invested, but he's been in there since, what, the 70s?
Yeah. So you say, okay, well, there's a guy who wasn't on the inside for so long because nobody liked him. He was an independent, just recently became a Democrat, wrote a couple books, made some money off that. I know even he got caught funneling some money to his wife's financial benefits, just a little bit.
Yeah, but not like...
But he's worth a couple $1 million. So then you take a guy who's only been in there 10 years and he's worth 20, 30 million. When he went in, he was worth nothing.
Yeah.
And now, granted, on a lot of these people, there's no concrete proof, but come on.
Well, let's just look at Nancy Pelosi. How long has she been in there?
Oh, God. I don't know. Since Jesus?
Okay, maybe not the best example. let's. But okay, but I believe she's worth over. Well, let's not speculate. Let's look up Nancy Pelosi's net worth. Nancy Pelosi. Oh no, net worth was the next thing that was going to come up.
That's funny.
Net worth. Nancy Pelosi is worth $26.4 million on a salary of just under $200,000 a year.
Say, that's a House salary. That's not even as much as the Senate.
Yeah, that's
salary.
not even House because she's in the House, not in the Senate.
Now she was a speaker, so that you get a little more for that.
Okay, well, it's what 174. That's why I said under 2. So it'll probably be close to 2. But we'll just say 2. How long has this broad been in? She's been in office since 87, 83. No, that's California. No, 83. I'd chair the California. Member of the House since 87.
Okay.
So, well, let's do a little math here. 1987.
33 years.
Thanks. So, $24 million. We're going to drop off the decimal place because we don't need it. Divided by 30 years. Yeah, so, well, okay, maybe I'll cut her a little more slack. But we know, because it's saying $800,000 a year. But she's making $800,000 a year for those 30 years?
Well, not only not making, because her net worth doesn't include what she spent.
Well, we're just going off of her net worth, but that comes up to $80,000 or $800,000 a year.
Right. So,
and she, on a salary of $200,000 a year.
Yeah, and that's not, like I said, that's not counting what she spent every year because that's her current net worth.
I want to know who her investor is.
So what was she spending every year? A couple million? I mean, there's plane flights and
yeah.
Of course, a lot of that's campaign money.
A lot of it's campaign money, but just going off this alone, if you break that down, her salary.
She was able to save $800,000 a year.
$800,000
because that's her current net worth.
So, but making only $200,000. So I want to know who her investor is. Like, if you're Nancy Pelosi's investor, give us a call. We would love to talk to you. We'd love to invest with you.
Yeah.
I'll give you every penny I own.
Yeah. Yeah, and who's to say? I mean, we have not researched this thoroughly. This could be a bad example. She could have wrote a couple of books that she made $10 million.
Sure, she's wrote a few books, but
still.
still.
So is Senator Sanders, and he's only worth a couple, $3 million. So,
And he's a senator. He gets paid more.
Right. So I don't think, she's making all that money off books. But, and that's not even an egregious example. I mean,
no, that was just
I've heard
picking
of some,
on her.
We just are kind of spitballing here because we hadn't prepared this. But there are some that I have heard of specifically and read about in articles that just went from, nothing to 30, 40, 50 million within 10 years.
Well, what's his face? The one Republican who's married to the one Taiwanese girl. God, what's his face? He wears glasses, looks goofy as hell. Older guy. Shit, why is my brain farting on this guy's name?
You're talking about Mitch McConnell?
Yes.
He's married to Elaine Chao?
Yeah.
Yeah,
thanks.
Cocaine Mitch, because he's got so much energy.
Yeah. So, yeah, Mitch McConnell is notorious for this. And he's a Republican. So, but he's notorious for funneling money into his wife's stuff. His wife is
she's like Secretary of Transportation.
Yeah, I want to say Transportation Secretary or something. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too. But yeah, she's getting a lot of money funneled. And it's like they're both worth a crap ton of money beyond what they really should be. It's like, what the hell, guys?
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell's been in there since Jesus was walking the earth too. So
Mitch McConnell's so old he's Jesus' uncle. I mean, that guy, him and Bernie Sanders both. I mean, I think they've been walking the earth since the dinosaurs.
So I mean, that kind of puts it in perspective. Both these guys, all these people have been in there forever. And that's another thing too. The longer you're in with all this power and whatnot, the little peanut salary you're getting isn't really where your money's coming from. It's coming from everything else that you're able to affect change on.
And even if it's not, a lot of it is I'm not even accusing these people of doing illegal things. I'm accusing them of doing unethical things.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm sure the vast majority of them are not doing illegal things. They want to protect themselves. They don't want to, they want to get reelected. They don't want to get in trouble. It's probably just unethical things. You create this network of people, and they're just going to pass the buck around to each other, you know? And especially if you have power, well, I might help his company out a little bit, which is why this was never intended to be a full-time job to begin with,
No, well, frankly, at the end of the day, what needs to happen with the legislative branch of government is you're given a salary of or you're paid on a per diem basis. We'll give you $1,000 a day that you're in session.
And luxury apartment housing.
Luxury
while you're in
apartment
session.
housing in session on location. It'll be government row. It'll be nice luxury apartments that you and all your buddies, 2-3 bedroom apartments where they're nicely furnished, all the amenities, everything's even taken care of. You don't even have to pay for your lights while you're there. Like this is your house while you're in session, and you're paid per diem. But that's it. There's no health care, no benefits, no nothing.
Yeah.
This is
and
it.
And you're only paid for when you're there.
When you're in session.
Yeah. That was one thing that this should be bipartisan, but of course Democrats chose to make it partisan. But they gave 24 hours rather on the Trump impeachment for each side to argue for the defense and for the prosecution. But if originally they only spread it out over 2 days, so they'd have to work 12-hour days. Well, they were complaining mightily. Oh, we might have to be up till midnight.
Oh, boo fucking who?
For these people who take off for every little thing, who get 10, 12 weeks of vacation a year, and boo hoo, they might have to. So they expanded it to 3 days. Oh, they're still complaining. And half the reason they expanded it to 3 days is apparently some of the more moderate Republicans like Susan Collins and Mitt Romney had said, well, basically, we don't want to work very hard either. We need our time off. So, they did a, 24-hour spread over
Great.
3
I'd
days.
like them to all have time off, as in, like, they're not elected anymore.
Yeah.
Because this is retarded.
So you spread the 24 hours over 3 days, and they're still complaining about this. That's only 8 hours of sessions a day for each side. So they can't, we all go to work and work 8, 9, 10 hours a day, the average American, every day that we work. And they're complaining about having to do it once.
I didn't get out of work last night till about 2:30, 2:45. I didn't get home till 3. Yeah, fuck you guys.
Yeah, I wasn't home till 1:30 in the morning. It's so that kind of stuff is just ridiculous.
Yeah,
and that's the only way we're going to solve this stuff is accountability all the way, across the board. We can't pick and choose our accountability by who we do and do not like their personality or their politics. That's not the way this works, and that's the reason there is no accountability, is because it's all about politics and all about personalities.
yeah.
And what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
And at the end of the day, we just need to make it so that serving in the legislative branch is really not fun.
Yeah.
We need to make it so it's kind of a chore, kind of a burden, kind of something you don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So that the people are going up there, they're up there because they want to make a change for the better. They're not up there to enrich themselves.
Exactly.
Now, and granted, I still recognize that there's a lot of people that want to make a change for the better that are completely misguided. But at least that way they're not enriching themselves.
So that's kind of how that needs to be handled, I think. Let's see. What else have we... Well, that pretty much goes with everything we've got on show prep. Anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, breaking news. While you were upstairs refilling your coffee, apparently Kobe Bryant has died in a helicopter crash.
Wait, Kobe Bryant, the basketball player?
Yeah. So
Well, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, breaking news. I mean, I'm not a basketball fan, but to those who are, that's I know he's a pretty young man. So
Yeah, young guy, talented. I guess condolences out to the family on that.
Yeah. Just saw that just now. I think it was just released just now when you were getting coffee. I had looked up some news. So.
Well, that sucks.
But yeah, and on the coronavirus front, I don't exactly work in the best place.
Wait, what's it?
No, he died of a helicopter crash.
No, but you said Kobe Bryant, right?
Yeah.
Like former.
Yeah. But I was switching topics.
Yeah,
I didn't
okay.
do a good segue.
No, you're good.
But I just spitballing here. I was thinking about where I work and as many tourists as we get in, and as many people as we have over 1,000 people go through there a week that I am in contact with. And I was like, oh man, not a good situation.
No, you're kind of not.
That kind of thing. Because I have been sick more this year from working there. At first I thought it was my immune system. No, I figured it out. I'm working around a bunch of tourists. I'm around 1,000 or more people a week.
Constantly traveling.
People who are all travelers. And I'm around the other staff who is around the other 1,000 people a week that I'm not around because on my days off they're around them. So it's ended up. I've probably missed I'd say a good 7-8 days of work in 1 year from being sick, which is very rare for me. So I was just observing that for me that's a little more worrisome because we get so many tourists from so many places constantly.
Well, depending on how the SARS virus starts to spread, I mean, if we start getting cases popping up here in Tennessee, you might want to wear a paper mask to work.
Oh, I would. And I know my employer would not like it, but I
tell him to eat a dick.
Yeah. You can fuck right off on that one, That's I think we all would.
Yeah.
Of course, you'd get a lot less business, but maybe you should get a lot less business if it starts to spread around here.
Well, I would simply put a notice. It's like, our staff are wearing these not because they're sick, but because we're not morons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or something to that effect. Maybe a little more politely.
Well, and that's also
worded.
going back to all that stuff and how it spreads is stupid crap like that. Whereas, people will put business above safety. They'll put, and it's not even business because the business will rebound after everything is finished. It's also, saving face. They're going to put saving face over safety of people. Can't have that.
No.
Stop something that big, you got to be across the board. And hopefully it's never an issue for me, but.
All right, guys. Well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and end the show today. If you like what you see, subscribe, press the notification button, all that happy crap. Videos will probably not be quite as regular. It's going to be kind of hit and miss. Of course, YouTube's new policies, we got to label this as not for your adult content only.
Yeah.
I guess if YouTube keeps doing this, we're going to have to push everything over to Pornhub. Coming at you from Pornhub. No, actually, we probably end up need to just probably start doing audio versions only of this. Clearly, we're having video issues. And we just need to get this on, Stitcher and the various other podcast things.
Yeah, and find some alternative ways to promote it because, YouTube's losing the kind of viewers we want.
Yeah.
At a pretty big rate because they don't want those viewers. They want they want your cat videos and look how cool I am on my BMX bike type videos. They don't want this type of stuff.
No, they don't. So we're gonna have to find probably a new platform. Bear with us during this transition period in this new year, this brave new year, this brave new world.
Yep, a lot of things changing, and we're going to try to adapt and change with it.
Yep, because change or die, right?
Yep.
So be safe out there, and we'll see you next time we come back at you from our studios here in Nashville. Have yourself a good one.
Have a good one.